Welcome again, everyone. Thank you for being here. Appreciate everyone being here at the council meeting. We will do a pledge of allegiance that will be led by Councilman Stromberg. Will you all please rise?
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just repeat the date and put it on record. It's November 19th, 2024. We're located at the council meeting on the third floor in the council chambers. We started at 7 p.m. and we just got done with the pledge. As far as roll call, we have our county attorney, Scott Broadhead, present. We have, as far as council, Councilman Thomas, Councilman Stromberg, Councilman Hamner, Councilman Hoffman. Councilman Wardle is excused. From the manager's office, we have our county manager, Andy Welch, assistant county manager, Brittany Lopez, and our county clerk, Tracy Shaw. Thank you all for being here also. Recognize each and every one of you out in the audience. Thank you for coming out and spending your evening with us. We come to the next portion on our agenda is public comment. Is there anybody in the audience by a raise of hand that would like to make a public comment? Okay, it appears there is none. We will then go to our presentations. We have the 2025 budget discussion, and we'll bring up our auditor, Allison McCoy.
Council, we are coming to the end of our budget process this year, which is always a good
Kind of
sign.
sad.
It is sad. Thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying that. It is sad. At this point, we are bringing to you the draft final budget. So we have been working through the tentative budget with the departments and with the council. We've put in all your approved projects, equipment, everything that we've been talking about over the last few weeks. And so this is a final look, or a draft final look at what the final budget will look like. And so I want to talk through just a few things that have changed, and then we'll look at the projects, we'll look at fund balances and things like that. And then you have a copy of the draft final budget, and so we can go over any questions or anything like that. I just want to kind of hit some highlights. So between the tentative budget and the final budget, there's only an aggregated change of $190,000. So there hasn't been a huge amount of change throughout the budget. The average adjustment is at -4%. So we've actually took things out of the budget, which is kind of nice. Our total aggregated budget across all funds is about $130 million. So we're dealing with a fairly large budget. Noteworthy changes from the tentative budget to the final budget is the establishment of the Assessing and Collecting Fund, which I talked to you about. Assessing and Collecting is the treasurer, the assessor, the recorder, the auditor, and then $50,000 of each of the attorney's office and the IT department. We have several rollover projects from 2024. As we've worked with departments, we've asked them to make sure to kind of evaluate their projects and see if they're going to be finished by the end of the year. If not, we needed to roll those budgets into 2025, and so that's some of the projects that you'll see. And then most of the fund balances have remained stable, but for example, with the Assessing and Collecting Fund, we did have to roll a fund balance over into that fund, and so we'll talk about that in just a few minutes. These next slides here are the projects that you've approved. We have the projects for the Enterprise Fund and the General Fund and Municipal Service Fund here. These are everything that we've talked about. No real changes here. These are all the projects that will be in the Capital Projects Fund, and Roads Fund, and our Impact Fee Fund, as well as Tourism. One that I do want to point out that wasn't on there is the Diamondback Trail and then the Motocross Water System. That's something that will be a rollover project, but otherwise, for the most part, These are all projects that we've already talked about. This is the equipment. So we've got enterprise fund and special revenues fund. And then these are the projects in the general fund. We did add the car that we discussed, but besides that, no real changes on this. And these are the ones for the enterprise fund and then special revenue fund on this one. Oh, did I get that one in there twice? Oh, it's going backwards, sorry. I don't know why it's going backwards. Start over. All right, here we go. All right, fund balance. I've prepared the fund balance a couple of different ways after a conversation with Andy and I. So you've seen this slide before. This slide takes our current fund balance, and right here we have our current fund balances. This shows the total percentage of our cash. This is what we're projected to spend out. I shouldn't say projected. If we spend our entire budget as it's budgeted in 2024, this is what we're supposed to spend out of our fund balance. And this is what 2025's budget shows that we'll spend out of our fund balance. And this is what we would have remaining. So this is what the percentage of our fund balance that we would have left. This column over here shows the expenses for these funds. So at the end of 2025, we would still have 42% of our general fund balance available to us. Now, I want to talk about these down here, this capital projects fund. This one is a little bit misleading down here because some of these projects right here are going to roll over into 2025. And so it's a little bit misleading when it says that we're going to have negative 51% because we're not going to spend all those out. Then what we did over here is we aggregated data clear back to 2011, and we forecasted what it would look like. So we did an actuals sort of, and then we did a forecasted. So we took that same kind of information. This is our current fund balance, and then we forecasted what 2024 would look like, what 2025 would look like. And this is what we forecasted our remaining fund balances would be. And so you can see here that it looks like we would have 73% after 2025 down here, 101% in roads. Down here in our capital projects fund, this is where we would end up. And this right here matches a little bit more with what we're thinking, in that we have projects that we're saving for the future. So for example, we've put in there $6.2 million for easement acquisition for Village Boulevard in 2025. We don't anticipate that we're going to do $6.2 million worth of acquisition next year. And so I feel like these numbers are probably a little bit closer to where we'll end up. But regardless, fund balances are stable no matter whether we're forecasting or whether we're looking at worst case scenario across all funds. We feel pretty good about where we're at right now. As we go over the next week or two, there are still even more tweaks. I've talked to you about this before in the past, that we can spend every day, all day in this budget. And there will be, when I talked to you before, there were 12,700 cells. After we did the final budget, there are now 18,000 cells. So I could spend every day, all day in here and continue to make changes in the budget. But what we do know that will be in the next week is we've just finished up open enrollment. And so we're going to go in and tighten up the salary and benefit numbers in there. And so some departments will probably be pretty close to the same, but there'll probably be some departments that will get a little bit cleaner and a little bit tighter. And then we'll continue to do just a little bit more cleanup on any kind of clerical issues or anything like that we find. But we don't anticipate any other large adjustments or any, no projects, no equipment, no personnel changes or anything like that. Most anything going forward will be clerical in nature. A reminder to the public and to everybody, our tentative budget is still available online to look at. This budget, this final draft is still available, can be available to anybody that wants to take a look at it. And we do anticipate that we will be doing the final approval on December 3rd for this budget. Any other questions or anything that the council would like to address tonight or go over tonight?
Any questions or comments? Councilman Hoffman?
Yeah, I just had, the reading you sent us on Friday, there's 4 places on here, 2 under the general fund where it says transfer to other funds and transfer from other funds. What is other? Is there a way to be a little more transparent versus other?
Sure.
And it's also in two other spots in two other places.
Sure, we can make that more clear.
So there's a transfer to, transfer to other funds
So,
of 350,000, or, well, it looks like.
so the transfer for 350,000 is probably for the impact fees, and that one is going to the 40 fund. Thank you, Capital Projects Fund.
Okay, then there's also, it says other also under the impact fees, parks and rec, it's the 215.
So that would be the other side of that transfer.
Okay, and then it's also, where was the other one at?
Well,
Walk-up music comes earlier, Scott.
Yeah, not till the next one, Scott. Sorry.
The other one is in the 440 capital projects
Same thing.
for
Yep.
2.5 million.
2.5 million, that would be the transfer from the municipal service fund into the 40 fund.
Okay, so yeah, I just had questions about what other meant.
Okay,
Like
and I'd be
the
happy to
transfer.
be more specific on those.
Chair recognizes Councilman Thomas.
Allison, you mentioned that the balance that we have is 40% of our fund balance. What's the ideal number, what's the perfect number?
So for the general fund, there's a state statute that doesn't allow us to have more than 65% in our fund balance. Several years ago, I believe the council decided somewhere between 35 to 40% was your goal. And so that's kind of where we've been trying to remain. So somewhere in that ballpark between that 30 to 40% is where 35 to 40%.
So typically, if we're over that, we'll be not over 40, but anything, I think state law is 60 right now, is that correct?
Yes.
So anything above 60, we typically transfer into the capital projects fund because we have so many large projects. And that's the way that we
Yes.
make sure we comply with state law on that.
And that's the way that, when I showed you that negative balance in the capital projects fund, that's the way that we would mitigate that negative balance in the capital projects fund as well.
Any other questions or comments?
Can I just make one comment? Allison, we did talk earlier about the open enrollment when it closed, and I was just working on those numbers before the meeting, and I think it's gonna be another about 150,000-ish that we'll have to add across all funds total. It's some go up, some go down, just based on the selections that people made for their benefits, and so I have those numbers. I'll be giving those to Allison so she can kind of fine tune those, but you're typically, each year you'll see people come in and out of benefits. It's usually $150,000, $200,000 is what you'll see.
And that
It's pretty
increase in
consistent.
total, About 340,000 with everything.
With the 190 she had there, correct. Another 150, correct. There is one more project that we're still kind of doing a little bit of research on. On this building, we've replaced so much. We've replaced water and sewer lines internally, but the sewer line that goes from the building out to the street is in need of repair as well, but we're trying to figure out kind of the best option for that. And as we're thinking through that, we'd rather do that if we have to tear something up inside the building, do that before we do the flooring. And so that's something we're looking at right now to see if we see what our best option for that. But it's a 40-year-old pipe and there's some damage that we need to correct some way. So we're looking at that right now.
It's not because the building's sinking like that swimming pool, is it?
Not on some wood right now.
Too
Council, I just
early?
want-
Thank you, Allison.
Thank you.
Okay, great. That will bring us down to public safety radio reprogramming, Bucky Whitehouse.
Good evening, Council. Appreciate the opportunity to give you a quick update related to a very large, some have called it Herculean or monumental task that the Emergency Services Department recently went through on behalf of Tooele County. As you're probably aware, Tooele County maintains all of the communications infrastructure for all the public radio systems throughout the county. One component of that infrastructure is each one of the handheld or car-mounted radios that the officers, the firefighters, the ambulance use to communicate back to our dispatch center. On the 30th and 31st of October, November 1st, the county went through what we call a cutover or a reprogramming episode where we did over 1,000 radios that had to be physically touched and reprogrammed with new frequencies in it. The last time anything of this magnitude was done was prior to the 2002 Olympics, so it's been over 20 plus years since anything of this sort has happened. During the process of, the overall process of making this radio switch started somewhere between 3 and 5 years ago. So the entities involved with public safety systems were aware that this was coming, but I think everyone collectively was uneasy or on edge when it finally got here because of how big of a task that this was. So the pictures that you've got on the display in front of you are just kind of an example. If Brittany could just continue to kind of maybe flip through there. So what this entailed is every public safety radio in the fleet throughout the entire county had to essentially line up in an assembly order fashion, roll into the EOC emergency services shop area and have a technician come out and interface with their radio. In addition to that, they all brought their handheld radios in to be touched as well. And as well as that, their pagers. So again, this was just an extremely large task to have something like this done. It was done effectively, but not without hiccups or problems. We're looking to do a lot of troubleshooting going forward. Some of these lines that you see here were several hours in the making just because of the challenges that go along with this. And so the emergency services staff, the sheriff's office staff, all of the public safety stakeholders countywide did a great job. We appreciated their patience in order to make sure that this happened. And again, 20 plus years since we have done anything like this. I have a gentleman in the room tonight that is a little bit shy, didn't want to come up here with me, but Andy Tanner, who's the radio or communications manager for Tooele County, was absolutely instrumental in making sure that this all happened, and it to his credit, happened very well for the circumstances. Without Andy's leadership and his great foresight in being able to help us pull this off, it wouldn't have gone as effectively as it did. Andy, during the course of the 7 days or so, 5 to 7 days that this project entailed, worked 90 hours. The pictures that you saw in the dark there, Andy was a part of the group that was there at the time. Some of those photos were 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock in the morning in order to be able to make sure that the crews that were on at that time could come in and get their radios reprogrammed and still be available for calls. So through his leadership, and again, from my perspective and I think the entire public safety arena, we can't thank him enough for all of his efforts and everything that he has done to make sure that these systems are taken care of, that these efforts are handled appropriately. We know that it's going to involve additional updates to the system, but we wanted to make sure that you were aware of, sometimes you don't get the opportunity to see everything that happens behind the scenes to make sure that systems are normal around here and that the officers, deputies are available, firefighters are available to respond and help the public when needed. So we thought you might find this interesting tonight. And again, I can't thank Andy enough for all his time and efforts. We appreciated Councilman Thomas pointing this out. I understand he got the opportunity to drive by when this assembly line was in effect. Councilman Stromberg got to sit in the line for several hours while his vehicle was being reprogrammed. Well, yeah, he got sent away, or actually did you get programmed and then had to come back because the load changed or something? Or
no motor roll day one, so I was sent away.
Yeah, so at any rate, effective project. We just wanted to point this out with you or to you and just let you know how important this component is in the overall public safety network. And again, we appreciate Andy for all of his hard work and effort, and to my entire staff and others, thanks to all of them for all of the going beyond the call of duty and doing everything that they did to make this happen. So I don't know if you've got any questions. Does anybody want to call Andy up here just so you guys can all... Yeah.
No, and you did great taking care of my radio. I will say that. So,
There you go.
and I will, Bucky, again, I think having gone through it as you mentioned, right? I mean, there definitely were some hiccups, but none of the hiccups I saw were from you, your staff, from Andy. I think everything there, I think it came from the folks that were there to do it. So I think how it was lined up and everything was set up was well done by you and your staff.
We appreciate it. We also want to give a quick shout out to the dispatch center as well. They're, anytime a call comes in, it starts with the dispatch center and then ends up out in the field with the production line that we saw here. And from top to bottom, all of the county staff were integral in making sure that this happened. And we just wanted to take an opportunity to point it out. So.
Thank you, Bucky. Appreciate it. Did you have a comment, Andy?
I guess just one quick comment. So I guess there are kind of three pieces to this. Correct me if I'm wrong, Bucky. So we have dispatch, which everything comes through, and then we have the radios, which is connected to each person, and then there are the towers. And so the towers will be something that we need to look at in the future because we will have to make upgrades to those, and currently we absorb the cost. This may be something we do need to look at in the future to make sure this is a cost that's spread out amongst everybody, just because they get expensive keeping towers up to date.
It is.
How soon do we need to address that, Andy?
Bucky's working on a capital improvement plan
Yeah.
for the towers. So.
It's very complex. We've been working on it for a year, at least one, well, probably more like 2 years, but it's going to take some time to evolve. We look by the end of 25, beginning of 26 to have the plan ready to go so we can start to go forward with it.
We just wanted to let you know that is something that we're working on. It won't be immediate, but we'll be coming back to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it. Council, that'll bring us down to the minutes for October 29th, 2024. Is there any corrections, additions to the minutes that you have at hand? If not, Chair to entertain a motion.
Chairman, I've reviewed them and found no issues with them, so I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Here's a motion from Councilman Hoffman. Is there a second?
Second.
Here's a second from Councilman Stromberg. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those that may oppose say nay. Tracy, that sounds unanimous to me. That will bring us down to the consent agenda. The check registry is online. You have, you certainly can go online. Anybody who's listening to this council meeting, go online and see every check that is written from the county is on there. So council, entertain a motion for approval of the check registry.
So moved.
Here's a motion from Councilman Thomas for approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Here's a second from Councilman Hoffman. All those in favor of approving the check registry, say aye. Aye. All those that may oppose, say nay. That sounds unanimous. That will bring us down within that item, line item transfers, and that will bring us up our auditor, Allison McCoy.
All right, council, we are, just as we are ending the budget season, we are also ending the 2024 budget season, and so we have asked departments to true up their budgets and make sure that there's no overages, and so we've got several line item transfers that do just that. The first one is from the EOC. They'll be moving some money from their lease payment line to their travel and training line. That's $9,000. The next one that we have is from the roads department. They'll be moving some money from their building replacement line to their materials line for a grader that broke, and that's $41,000. And these next couple are just true up ones. This is from the EOC department for $40,000 to various lines, and then from solid waste for $122,500 for various lines. Any questions on those? Again, we're not increasing, just moving from lines to true those up. So.
Any questions,
I'm
Council?
just gonna ask what happened to the grader for $41,000?
It was the differential, the rear differential on that grader broke. Expensive. Yep.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you. That'll bring us down to a public hearing on increasing the budget.
Okay. Do you want me to explain them first, or do you want to do?
Please.
Okay. So these will be similar, but these ones do require funds to increase the budget. So the first one that we have is for human resources. They've added some additional staff in the HR department. So these are for the salaries and also, as well as the office supplies that go for, towards those ones. This is for $56,627.45. Next one that we have is for the auditor's office for Board of Equalization software for $5,300. Next one is for the sheriff's office for utilities that have increased for $45,000. The next one is for community development. This is actually grant funds for $48,375. And then we have from the manager's office, this is also a grant for $20,000. And then we have, again, from the airports, some additional military trainings for a total of $350,300. Any questions on any of those?
Questions or comments, council? I think we went through those, but I appreciate you going through each one of those specifically. And it was great to have the military out at the airport, running great revenue. Any other questions? If not, Chair would entertain a motion to open up public hearing.
So moved.
A motion from Councilman Stromberg. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Councilman Thomas. All those in favor of opening up public hearing for Resolution 2024-32, increasing the 2024 budget, say aye. Aye. All those that may oppose, say nay. Public hearing is now open. Is there anybody in the audience by a raise of hand that would like to speak to increasing the 2024 budget as outlined by our auditor? Seeing none and hearing none, Chair would entertain a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
A motion to close public hearing from Councilman Hoffman. Is there a second?
Second.
Here, a second from Councilman Stromberg. All those in favor of closing public hearing, say aye. Aye. All those that may oppose. Public hearing is now closed. Chair would entertain a motion for Resolution 2024-32.
Make the motion that we approve Resolution 2024-32, increasing the budget.
Hearing a motion from Councilman Stromberg to increase the budget in Resolution 2024-32. Is there a second?
Second.
Hearing a second from Councilman Hoffman. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those that may oppose say nay. That passes. I'll bring up Resolution 2024-31, authorizing pretrial services using monies from the Utah Bail Forfeiture Grant. Nathan.
Good evening, council.
Beautiful tie, by the way.
Thank you. I try sometimes. So at our last meeting, Dallin Littlefield from our CJCC came up and presented about this grant that he had received, that we had worked for to get money to help with pretrial services. So what is before you tonight is the resolution that is authorizing the use of that money to go towards those services and start this pilot program here in Tooele County. The funds will be isolated just to that grant money, and if it works, then we'll address it later on, but this is just to get that program started.
Any other questions for Nathan on that? Okay. And then you say this is a pilot?
Yes, this is a new program for Tooele County, right?
Okay.
I don't remember if you were here last time.
I don't know, if maybe pilot's not the best term, but this is a 2-year grant. It's using all state funds. I guess what we're saying is we're gonna try this program out for a couple years and fund it, see how it works, how it goes, and then we'll have to talk. We don't know for sure whether the state will continue to fund it, whether the county will have to fund something, we're not sure. So we're starting off, and I guess we'll play and see how it works.
Okay.
So
That,
I guess pilot, a pilot is, that's kind of the definition of a pilot, but that's not how we were.
that's not how it was presented last time, but to me, this is a new program for
It is a
Tooele
new
County
program though.
And the funds are limited, and if we don't get more funding, it may go away, who knows?
Okay. Okay, any other questions, council? Chair to entertain a motion.
So moved.
Hearing a motion from Councilman Thomas for approval, is there a second?
Second.
Hearing a second from Councilman Stromberg. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those that may oppose say nay. That passes unanimously. That'll bring up Resolution 2024-33, adopting Tooele County IT policy.
I'll take that one if that's okay. So as you recall, Scott Persons was here at our last meeting and presented the IT policy. And the current one that you have in front of you is very similar. One of the things that we did do is we went back and formatted it to make sure it's consistent with our new policy, personnel policy that we adopted recently, and so I did a thorough grammar check and just making sure it looks consistent. And so this is pretty much what you saw before with just a few tweaks just to clean it up. One of the things so I'd recommend you go ahead and approve this. One of the things we learned just last week at a conference was the state changed some of the laws regarding privacy, and we need some of that in our policy by May 1st of next year. I think we've included a lot of that. We'll do some double checking to make sure we have everything that state requires, so we may have to come back with a few tweaks. But this, I think, covers most everything in that new policy. And so we'd recommend that you adopt this IT policy.
So the IT policy, you're saying that the state came in with some new things that we'll need to change. Is that anything to do with personal calendars or anything like that?
No, this is called the privacy program implementation. That's really good. After that person presented at the conference too.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments?
He's on one today, so.
Chair to entertain a motion.
So moved.
Hearing a motion from Councilman Hoffman, is there a second? Hearing a second from Councilman Thomas. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those may oppose say nay. Thank you. That will bring us down to action items, acceptance of the 2023 annual financial statement and the external audit. Allison McCoy.
All right, council, you'll recall last meeting, John from Larson was here. He presented on our financial statements and the audit. Tonight, I just need to have you accept, so not approve, accept the financial statements, and then we'll be good to go. So,
Okay, Chair to entertain a motion. Chair to entertain a motion to accept the external audit.
Chair, make the motion that we accept the external audit for 2023.
Hearing a motion from Councilman Strungberg to accept the external audit for the 2023 financial of Tooele County. Is there a second? Second. Hearing a second from Councilman Thomas. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those that may oppose say nay. Okay, passes. That will bring us down to council updates. Councilman Hoffman.
The only thing I just wanted to mention was we had a meeting again with the air race folks today, and things are progressing nicely with that. We're getting into the stage where we're kind of just breaking off and doing some subcommittees to get some other things done. And we'll have another meeting on December 3rd. So that's just kind of a quick update on that. So more to come in the near future on that, hopefully.
Thank you. Councilman Stromberg.
Nothing for tonight.
Okay. Councilman Thomas.
Yeah, we went down to UAC, down to Bryce Canyon to our conference. Really good conference. That's one of my favorite ones we go to. And good discussion from the state leaders and legislatures, and it was pretty impactful to it. We got to, they asked Tooele County to give success stories from different counties, and Tooele County was picked to be the first one to do that. And I got to tell a sweet story about Harris Village and good things that are happening and how that's continuing to grow. And it's nice to tell our own story, the great things that we're doing. The sheriffs had their group down there at Ruby's End too. So good collaboration, good discussion, and always good to go and learn from other people the good things they're doing and tell our story. So anyhow.
Thank you, Councilman. Excuse me. Thank you, Councilman Thomas. I'll just add that Councilman Thomas got up and spoke. There wasn't a dry eye in the audience. It was actually a good story, and he did quite well. Also, just want to recognize that we have a tourism director. If you have any questions or comments, you're happy to reach out to Jill McIntyre. I was hoping Bucky would still be here, see if he knew that person. Very well, that's his sister. But yeah, so she's working full-time to bring tourism opportunities to Tooele County so that they can see what we have here and come and stay a night in our hotels and eat at our restaurants. The other thing I would just encourage everyone to be involved with the legislative session that's coming up. We learned from many different things down at the conference that Councilman Thomas was speaking of, different things that are on the agenda and that the lawmakers are looking over. Many things that, obviously, we know that power by coal is something that has been going away, so they're looking for other alternatives, like wind or solar or other things that they're doing to bring power and have sustainable power. Another thing that I would just bring up that the sheriff and I spoke about, there are many things that lawmakers will make in the state that are unfunded mandates. So what that means is we have to follow that law, but they didn't associate any funding towards that. So we have to find that funding. So when people talk about our budget that we're going through, we have to find money to be able to be state compliant to fulfill those things that they made us do without having funding from the state. And sometimes it's a pet project of theirs and sometimes not. So I know I'm speaking quite direct on that, but it's frustrating when somebody tells you you have to do something and plus you have to go out and find funding. So do some fundraisers, things like that. I'll stop there and turn it over to our county manager for update.
I'll just adding to that from the conference. One thing that was interesting was the moderate income housing issue in the state, and a couple of statistics that were just shocked me. I guess the presentation was that the average age of a home buyer this last year was 56 years old, and the average age of a first-time home buyer was, I think, 37. And so those are a lot higher than I ever expected, but that's just an issue of the affordability that we're having throughout the state, and that's going to continue to be an issue with the state and working with local governments to try to crack that nut. And so that's a big issue. That's all I have.
And actually, it's probably going to be an issue for several years down the road, is what they said anyway. In that. Yep. Thank you. With nothing else, then Chair to entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion. All those in favor say aye.